because you can rely on experts, you can rely on advisors, but they can only advise you on something you have familiarity on. And that is the reason why I am saying it, not in terms of boasting, but in terms of also encouraging any other public officer and also other young Kenyans that education, ukisoma haipotei, inasaidia pahali. As I start here, I start in terms of budget, but also as a leader, because I'm privileged to be MP for Kiharu. And you'll keep forgiving me because you know that is my primary role as the Member of Parliament for Kiharu. So when you invite me many oftentimes and I start with what we are doing in Kiharu, is because that is exactly my job. And since we are talking about economics, an optimal allocation is in national and also in the taxonomies that exists, and especially constituencies and counties. The same semantics we are learning about here, they also happen in the constituency level. And I am glad that where I represent, that is Kiharu, our focus was primarily first in the learning institutions. It's a pretty large constituency with 2 sub-counties. We have over 112 public primary schools, and I want to assure you as the MP for that area and as a servant, having worked alongside the people of Kiharu and together, all our public primary schools, in all the classes the learners attend, they are in appearance just as the academies that the children of those who have more means attend. And actually all our public primary schools are tiled, all of them, all classes. We also have in the same category or sector a program we call Kiharu Masomo Bora. And Kiharu Masomo Bora touches on learning in secondary schools. And out of all our base secondary schools, over 10,000 learners. There used to be much more, but because now there is no, there was no intake in Form 1, they are now a little fewer. So they are around 10,000. They only pay 1,000 school fees per term. And in that they eat in school from Monday to Saturday. And in the same program, we also provide learning materials like revision books. And also we have done infrastructure. Like this year alone, we are doing 10 laboratories in our JSS, which are used to be primary schools institutions, modern laboratories, and much more that we are doing. So whatever we are doing here also must reflect on the leader in the area that they have dominant influence. And therefore, it is important that we speak about these things, because the same things we are talking about here affect the people. The same thing we do in the constituency level affect the same people. And you could have also noted probably, because I highlight those things in my social media, rural constituencies have topographies that are not necessarily flat. And therefore what we have been doing from my first year is that in very steep areas, we do concrete roads, so that once you do it, you actually do it for once and for all. Once we, for example, the concrete roads we did in my first year, there has never been any repair needed, because once you do it, you have done it. Other than putting gravel on very steep areas, then you have to do it after every rainy season. Now getting to the issue of the day, I'm taking it up actually from there, from Kiharu, because, and actually don't wait for another technical speech, I'm already giving the speech. I learned one thing when I was elected as Member of Parliament for Kiharu in my first term. When you get elected and before people actually know your character, there is usually some friction before people define who you are. Because politics and leadership is also, to a large extent, part of making people know who you are, so that when you speak, they know who is speaking. When you say maybe something will be done, they know, do you mean it? So that when you say, people can define your leaning. And therefore, before that happens, or before that definition, of course, people will have different definitions on who you are. And I realized you can spend a lot of time fixing your politics and you neglect the role at which you are actually elected to do. That's something profound that I learned in my first 2 years. That you can spend a lot of time trying to fix your competitor, trying to fix and follow where the person whom you want your seat has gone to, trying to silence somebody maybe in social media or elsewhere, provoking you to do something better. Or you can actually choose to spend that time doing the work itself. And I realized it is very important that as a leader, you focus on something that can stand the test of time. Because, for example, when you have an argument with Dr. Rugo here, whom is also my good friend, if you have an argument here on words will not go past that argument. But if there is some deliverable, you do something tangible, it will go beyond the argument, it will go beyond words. And I realized that it is important you spend your time as a leader addressing the issues that are not necessarily things that you are proving through word of mouth, but things you will do that are all seasonal. And these that are all seasonal are the deliverables you do around the sectors that you should be working around. Why am I saying this? If you look at the budget alternative that has been done by IPF, and I commend Jerry for even the demeanor at which you highlighted the issues. If you look at it, and I want to be very frank, you have to make a choice as a country between managing politics and delivering. What am I trying to say? There is no better way of showing what you want to do other than through the budget allocations. Now, if what you want to achieve, for example, is roads, if what we want to achieve as a country is healthcare, if what we want to achieve is in education, then just follow the budget. Go check how much has been allocated. And therefore that will speak more than the words. Now, what I've seen, the state, the architecture of the state, beyond the doing, there is also the people management side. The people management side, of course, is done through that sector that was criticized by Bernard. That sector that has, of course, GJO, and also there is the administration. I don't want to say more, just scrutinize the budget. Because, for example, if you look at the supplementary budget we just did, there was a variation around administration again of over 10 billion shillings to one specific institution. Why am I saying these things? The orientation of a country, you need to define, we need to define. The orientation around the circumstances in Kenya now are the real issues around security and management of people, or is it in other areas, for example, like roads and other deliverables? You just need to look at the budget, you can tell. Why am I saying so? If, for example, you increase the budget, let me use interior, for example, and you see a significant increment, and in that year there is no recruitment that is happening, and if you go to the budget of the development of that specific ministry, there is no increment that is notable, therefore that money is going into recurrent, then you ask yourself, this money that is going into recurrent in sectors that are by law not as transparent as others, then you need to make your deduction around there. And I'm speaking that because I know I'm talking to experts. You scrutinize. So when the money is going here, if it's, for example, buying equipment that are security related, fine, which are they? But if it's going to recurrent, what is recurrent in that sector? And up to what length can you question that recurrent as a Kenyan? Up to what length can you question that expenditure as a journalist, for example? You will get many answers from that. And I hope I am speaking. The other thing, because many times we confuse, budget making process is not just about June or whichever other date that the minister reads highlights. It it starts pretty earlier. It starts many months before that date. And it goes all the way into oversight. And therefore, even IPF, I challenge you, some of the questions we are asking, I challenge you to also take it up. Because even, for example, if you look at KPIs, you look at the allocations, that's not the head of budget. Even what the Auditor General does is not the head of the budget.